So this is James at Premier Shooting Solution. We're going to be installing our AK Master Mount side rail mounting system. In the package, in this kit, comes the instructions here. Instructions are inside, but we're going to go through a sample installation. In the kit, you get the side rail, you have our proprietary pins, the hex key that's needed, and also include a extra Allen head screw. For our purposes today, we're going to use a mock-up on a AK receiver. Has the hammer, spring, and trigger mechanism placed, has the factory access pins in place. Within your AK, you're going to have this shepherd's crook wire that I pre-removed, or if it's an American-made gun, it may actually have a retainer plate in place. These will be removed from your access pins first. Next, you want to take out the factory access pins. The best place to start on this, and this is to take the tension off this double coil spring. So I'm going to pull your hammer back. I use a little probe to help facilitate this, but you can use needle nose pliers, and this is probably the most difficult part of this install. Next, I use just a simple bread tie. Some people use a empty shotgun shell to pass around to secure the springs so they don't bite you in the hand. Now that the tension's off, the hammer is freely movable. Another trick, I use a long nail. Come here, push out the factory access pin, go through, pushes the pin out, also keeps my my hammer and spring in place. Next, I'm going to take one of our proprietary pins that come in the kit. You'll see it has a groove on here similar to the factory pins, but you do not need the shepherd's crook wire or the retainer plate. The groove is there to keep the hammer and the trigger centered in the proper place within the receiver. So in the kit, it already has an Allen head screw in place. Take that off. The female end of our pin, I'll place that on the nail. Use that nail as a guide and see how it would go through. Our side rail here has a hex cutout that matches the pin. So we're going to take that. Now, go through. And at this point, I don't want to set it. Just want to take my screw thread in here to hold it in place. Just tighten about that far. And then we'll do the same with the trigger. Use my nail once again. To go through, push out the factory access pin. That allows the disconnector and the trigger to stay in place. The little spring that's underneath keeps that in place. Slide that side rail down. Once again, use my nail. Take our other pin. Remove the Allen head screw. Same technique. Slide the female end of that pin over the nail. Use that as a guide to go back through. Come to the other side and thread that in there. Then I'm going to flip it over, make sure the hex head pins are properly seated in the side rail hex cutouts. Hold some pressure on them. Use the included Allen key. This is making sure it's properly seated. And I want to just hand tighten just a tad more. Take that off. Use my probe to put the tension back. And now that's in place. Put your bolt carrier back in place. Our side rail is held on by compression, so you need to find the sweet spot between this being too tight or too loose. Cycle the bolt to make sure things are moving well. This is in place, and then at that point take each one out individually, degrease it, and I recommend using blue Loctite. Reassemble, let it cure overnight, and then you're ready to go.